Hello, friends, family, and fellow bookworms, welcome back. So today I'm doing something a little bit differently, but that I thought would be fun, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. I have to say, the idea for this video was sparked by a comment that I got from someone saying that I should do like a little tour of my Tolkien bookshelf, if you will, and just show you every single J.R. Tolkien book that I own. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be going through my Tolkien bookshelf, showing you all the Tolkien books that I own, and talking about them. Thank you to that person who commented and who sparked this video idea. If you're watching this right now, thanks for the video idea. Without further ado, I'm just going to start with the tour. Right, so this top shelf right here is where I like to keep a lot of my like deluxe editions and stuff. Start up with Letters from Father Christmas. So I did a book review of this book a long while back. I think like around the time I first started this channel, around that time. Letters from Father Christmas is basically J.R. Tolkien wrote letters to his children each Christmas, and these letters were from Father Christmas, but they were actually written by J.R. Tolkien. These letters start out very simple from Father Christmas, like, you know, saying Merry Christmas to the children and all of that, but then as they go on, the letters get a bit more complex, and there starts to be like stories ingrained into these letters, where it's almost like Tolkien's inventing an entirely other secondary world. And you can actually see that in a lot of these letters, J.R. Tolkien actually did take inspiration from Middle-earth to put into this secondary world, if you will. J.R. Tolkien liked to call an imaginary world, like a world that exists only in the mind, he liked to call it a secondary world, and that's what he called Middle-earth. He called Middle-earth his secondary world. So this book is really, really a fantastic book. I would highly recommend it. Really, really interesting, and I love this edition too. It's very beautiful, as you can see. The spine's very nice. It has a bookmark ribbon thing. It also has illustrations, you can see there. And it has pictures of the actual original letters, if you can see there, that Tolkien wrote, that were supposedly from Father Christmas. So yeah, this is a beautiful edition, beautiful book too. I like to read it every single Christmas, and if you have not read it, I highly recommend it. Really interesting, also I recently found out how two of Tolkien's sons, I can't remember if they were Christopher and Michael, or Christopher and John. I think it was Christopher and Michael. Two of J.R. Tolkien's sons. He actually had 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And one night, they always thought, they never suspected once that their father was actually the one writing these letters. And one night, they heard him like putting the letter on their mantelpiece or something, or in the mailbox. And then he tripped and he said, "Blast!" And then from that point on, Christopher and Michael knew that J.R. Tolkien was the one their father, Tolkien, was the one writing these letters and not Father Christmas, but they never told him, and they never told anyone else either. So, really fantastic book. I like to read it every single Christmas. A great Christmas read. Next I have this beautiful deluxe edition of The Hobbit. There's the Misty Mountains, that's Smaug, and then it also has Khuzd-dûl, or what do you call these? I think they're called the Krith runes. I'm not sure. Well, dwarvish letters. No, they're the dwarvish runes, I believe. Runes or letters, I can't tell which. I'm just going to call them runes because that's what they look like. Also, if you notice, Tolkien took a lot of inspiration from like the Old Norse runes. If you notice, these do look very Nordic inspired. So, yeah. And this is Dwarvish, if you're interested in what it says. I learned that it says The Hobbit, or There and Back Again, by J.R. Tolkien, in Khuzd-dûl, which is the Dwarvish language. This is a beautiful edition. It has illustrations by J.R. Tolkien himself. Let me see if I can find one here. Here's Tolkien's illustration of Rivendell. And then all like the songs and poems I've noticed are in green print, whereas the book is in like normal black ink. So yeah, a very beautiful edition. It also has 2 maps inside, first of which is of course the map of Wilderland. Okay, good, it fits in the frame. So it has Misty Mountains, Mirkwood, and then up here is the Lonely Mountain. Then it also has the dwarves map of the plan of the Lonely Mountain, and actually you can see, let me see, you can actually see the moon letters if you hold it up to the light. I should have brought a flashlight here. You can't see it, can you? Here, I'm going to turn the camera around a little bit. Okay, there, I think that's good. So if you hold it up to the light, you can see the moon letters right there. It would be more realistic if they showed only by the light of the moon, but if you hold it up to the light, you can see moon letters. The secret to that is they're on the back of the map. So yes, a beautiful edition of The Hobbit illustrated by the author. I also have same sort of deluxe edition of The Lord of the Rings, illustrated by the author. I did like a sort of unboxing and review thing of this book a while back when I first got it. I'll leave a link to that video down below in the description. This is a beautiful edition of Lord of the Rings, illustrated by the author, and it has the runes, the letters, called the Elvish letters, which are called the Tengwar, that are also found on the side of the One Ring. So this, of course, has the famous inscription, "One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them." Let's see if we can find an illustration somewhere here. Here's J.R.R. Tolkien's illustration of Orthanc. And then, of course, in the back of this book, it also has, if I can get it out, 2 maps, which I will show to you. This is the map of Rohan, Gondor, and the western border of Mordor. There's the map there. This one was actually drawn by Christopher Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien's son, for The Return of the King, final book in Lord of the Rings trilogy. And then, of course, right here we have the full map of Middle-earth, if I can unfold it. There. Middle-earth at the end of the Third Age. Also, you can see the Eye of Sauron on the front cover. That is actually not on the dust jacket, that's on the inside. So if I took the dust jacket off here, you can see the Eye of Sauron is underneath it. Ooh, that looks really cool. Actually, I might have to display these without the dust jackets. That looks really cool. I'll put this back on here. Beautiful edition of The Lord of the Rings. And then, of course, the same deluxe edition of the Silmarillion. On the cover we have, not sure what that is. It's a symbol of something. I can't remember what symbol it is. Looks like these are the 3 Silmarils, 3 jewels which hold the imperishable light of Valinor, or heaven, inside them. And there's Tengwar over there, which are the Elvish letters. And over here, of course, not really a big fan of the light green color on the edges of the pages, but that won't ruin my liking for this book. I love this edition. Not exactly sure what these letters say. Let me know in the comments if you know what this says. I'd be very interested to know. There's Tolkien's own beautiful illustration of Tol Sirion, the Vale of Sirion. So there's so many beautiful illustrations in here, and of course 2 maps. This first one is, I'm not sure what this is. I think this is Tolkien's original drawing for Beleriand, a land which was connected to Middle-earth, but which, due to the War of Wrath, the land was very much beat up, and so Beleriand broke off of Middle-earth and floundered into the sea at the end of the First Age. So this looks like maybe Tolkien's earliest drawings of Beleriand. I think there's supposed to be like a forest right here in East Beleriand in the finished map. And of course, there is the finished map of Beleriand right here. Ah yes, that looks much better. This is what I'm used to seeing. So yeah, there is a forest down there in Eastern Beleriand. Tower im Duanath. Finished map of Beleriand. What a beautiful map. And then I have here a dictionary of Tolkien by David Day. I found this dictionary of Tolkien, very beautiful edition of the dictionary as well. You can see inside it there's a ton of illustrations. I found this book to be very, very helpful when I was reading the Silmarillion and I came across a term that I didn't know. Like, for example, if I can find one, Earendil, or Ea, Dwemer Lake, all these Tolkien terms, and this is a dictionary of all the terms that Tolkien invented, just the names of places, of people. I think of Elvish and Dwarvish and Black speech words as well. Beautifully illustrated throughout. I highly recommend this dictionary to anyone who's sort of having trouble working their way through Tolkien's works because of all the complex names, because there are a lot of complex names in Tolkien's books, especially in like the Silmarillion. And so I highly recommend the Dictionary of Tolkien. There's also, right here, an Atlas of Tolkien by David Day. Yeah, this is such a beautifully illustrated edition. And these books are just so beautiful. I like to page through them, read sections from them, and they are very beautifully illustrated throughout. Ooh, that's such a great illustration. Man, I just love these David Day books so much. Fantastic, beautiful edition with gold sprayed edges. And then here I have a Tolkien miscellany. This includes a couple of shorter works of J.R. Tolkien's, like it has some of his short stories like Smith of Wootton Major, Farmer Giles of Ham, Tree and Leaf. So Tree and Leaf includes his short story Leaf by Niggle, which is an allegory on J.R. Tolkien himself writing The Lord of the Rings. Leaf by Niggle is such a fascinating story. Highly recommended, of course. Farmer Giles of Ham. I love Farmer Giles of Ham. It's a very whimsical read about a man who owns a dog who is fighting giants, then a dragon invades his town. Very fantastic, whimsical story that I just love reading through. Highly recommend Farmer Giles of Ham. Smith of Wootton Major, of course, Leaf by Niggle. It also has Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, where he wrote about fairy tales, basically, and why adults need them just as much, if not more, than children need them. Fantastic essay, very well thought out one. Highly recommend those to any academic. Also has The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, which is a collection of 15 poems, and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which is, I believe, an Old English poem, part of the Arthurian legends that J.R. Tolkien translated into English. So that's what this book includes. And this is my most favorite Tolkien books that I currently own. A box set which includes The Great Tales of Middle-earth, which are The Children of Húrin, Beren and Luthien, and The Fall of Gondolin. I'll get them out for you there. That slid very cleanly out. So these are probably my most favorite stories that J.R. Tolkien ever wrote, even better than The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, of course, is a 10 out of 10, but I call these an 11 out of 10 because they're just such great stories. Very deep stories, too. They feel very mythological and archaic in style. Children of Húrin is my favorite Tolkien book, and all of these volumes are also beautifully illustrated throughout by the fantastic Tolkien illustrator Alan Lee. You can get this illustration here. There. The Children of Húrin is a very tragic tale. It doesn't have the happiest ending, but still such a beautifully written book. It's basically about a guy named Húrin who fights the Dark Lord Morgoth, and at this time, this is in the first stage, this is like thousands and thousands of years before The Lord of the Rings, and this is when a Dark Lord known as Morgoth was at war with all the free peoples of Middle-earth. And at this time, Sauron was only Morgoth's servant, and Morgoth was probably the most terrible Dark Lord, even worse than Sauron. Although Sauron was certainly more cunning than Morgoth, Morgoth just wanted to destroy everything. Very beautiful book. It's about this guy called Húrin, who has two children, Túrin and Nienor, and he is captured by Morgoth during a battle which the Free Peoples lose, and Morgoth is asking Húrin to reveal to him the location of the hidden city of Gondolin, which is a city where a bunch of elves are hiding, and Gondolin has been hidden from Morgoth for hundreds of years, so he very much wants to find Gondolin and destroy it because he doesn't know where it is, and that scares him. So he's trying to convince Húrin to tell him the location of Gondolin, and he's like, I will make you my highest advisor, and he will give him all these gifts. But then Húrin refuses to tell him the location. He defies Morgoth to his face, and so Morgoth sets a curse on him that he will watch his family as he reaps their own ruin. So Morgoth basically puts this curse on Húrin so that Húrin will see whatever his family is doing and the tragedy that befalls them. Such a tragic, heartbreaking tale, but still a very good one. Very emotional, very tragic, very beautifully written though, and I highly recommend this. Like, if you've read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, I would recommend reading this directly after it and before you read the Silmarillion, because this will explain some things and really help you with when you read the Silmarillion, because the Silmarillion is not the easiest book to read, very complex. So, highly recommend this. This is my favorite Tolkien book. And then Beren and Luthien, the story that was most dear to Tolkien's heart, about a man called Beren who fell in love with Luthien, an elf. But Beren is mortal and Luthien is immortal. And Luthien's father tells Beren that he can't marry his daughter Luthien unless he brings him a Silmaril from Morgoth's crown. So Morgoth stole the Silmarils, and it's going to be very difficult to get them back. So that's basically what this book is about. Again, another beautiful story, and a story that was very near and dear to Tolkien's heart. This was, I think, Tolkien's favorite work of his. Really fantastic book. And of course, The Fall of Gondolin. Man, the title gives away everything. This is the story of a man called Tuor, and how he came to live in Gondolin, and how they have a traitor in their midst who betrays them in Gondolin, and Morgoth finds their location. Again, just such beautiful illustrations throughout. The title kind of spoils everything, so sorry for reading you that title. What a beautiful illustration. Highly recommend The Great Tales of Middle-earth, my most favorite works of J.R.R. Tolkien's. And then lastly, I have this little pocket edition that has The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Very beautiful pocket edition. Very simple one. I like that about it. It is leather bound. These are the very first J.R.R. Tolkien books that I owned. Got this for my birthday a long time ago when I turned 8 or 9, I think. And yeah, these were the first Tolkien books that I ever owned. Love these pocket editions. They're very small and easy to handle, so you can take them with you wherever you want and read them wherever you want. And my mic just fell off. That's better. So, love these pocket editions. First Tolkien books that I ever owned. Then this, it won't fit out. I'll just turn it this way. This nice clock that I love. It has Roman numerals. I just put it up for display. Okay, well, that took longer than I expected. So let's move on to the bottom shelf. To the midmost, not exactly midmost, to the next shelf. Right here. So to start off, I have the Lord of the Rings official movie guide by Brian Sibley. Brian Sibley is another great Tolkien scholar. He edited The Fall of Numenor, and this is just a book talking about how they made the movies of The Lord of the Rings. I've read through this a couple times. Very good book. The movies of The Lord of the Rings are very, very good, very accurate to the books, very faithful to the books as well. Of course, the books will always be better though, but the movies are very good as well. I also have a Tolkien coloring book. Can't remember where I got this actually. It was a long while ago. Hey, I actually did a pretty good job with that, surprisingly. So this has just pictures from the Silmarillion, The Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings. Very scary, those wargs, I think. Bats. Gandalf, Bilbo. I haven't illustrated all of these. Oh, Radagast! You know, I'm surprised at how good I actually did with these. I'm very terrible at drawing, but I'm not as terrible as just filling in pictures. Looks like I didn't write in a lot of these. Oh, I did that one. So yeah, this is just a coloring book. And there's Sam at the end of The Lord of the Rings with his family. Ooh, next. I have The World of Tolkien, David Day. This is a collection of books that David Day wrote on the world of J.R.R. Tolkien. So it has, of course, The Dictionary of Tolkien, which I showed you earlier, but those were like special editions, I believe, and these are just the normal editions. They look leather bound, I'm not exactly sure. They do have great illustrations, of course, but they don't have full color ones like those other ones did. There's the Atlas of Tolkien, Battles of Tolkien, the Heroes of Tolkien, Dark Powers of Tolkien, the Hobbits of Tolkien, the Ring Legends of Tolkien. So I have read most of these, or at least parts of most of them. I don't like read them all the way through, especially like the Atlas of Tolkien. It's not like a book that you would read through like a normal novel. Really fascinating books, though. They just talk about Tolkien, where his inspiration came from, and how all the stories like that Tolkien wrote about, like the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, and how they are very similar. So it notes the similarities between them and like ancient myths. Talk about what Tolkien was inspired by, the languages of Tolkien. Really fascinating. I recommend these to any fan of Tolkien wanting to learn more about Middle-earth. I also have here, a History of Middle-earth box set 3. So the History of Middle-earth series, this is volumes 6 through 9. These are ones that Christopher Tolkien wrote after his father, J.R.R.'s death. And this just talks about the history of the Lord of the Rings. It gives us a lot of like the behind-the-scenes stuff of how J.R.R. Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. I read these not that long ago and found them to be really fascinating. I recommend these to anyone who's interested in how Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. So it has earlier drafts of Lord of the Rings, and Christopher Tolkien provides commentary, notes, and footnotes, noting all the differences between the earlier drafts and the later drafts of the story. Really, really fascinating books. They don't smell that good either. They smell like glue. Oh, another thing to note about these books is that they actually have reversible covers. So here, if you take this cover and you turn it inside out, there's actually another alternative cover inside that one, so you can choose which cover you want. In fact, here, I'm going to show you all the normal covers of these and then the reversible covers. Along with, of course, the last box set, which has volumes 10 to 12, and the index, which, yes, there's an entire book that is just the index to the 12-volume History of Middle-earth series. I'm going to show you all of these side by side, with the covers that I like, and with their reversible covers as well. And I unfortunately do not own the first 2 box sets of this. I do own the first 5 volumes of the History of Middle-earth in paperback, as you will see soon. First of all, though, I want to show you the beautiful illustrations on the boxed sets right there. Got this. That's so beautiful. I can't wait until I have the first 2 volumes as well to go side by side along with these. They look so nice all together. So those are the covers that I have them on. Let me zoom you in a little bit there. There. Now I'm going to show you with their alternative covers. So beautiful. She looks very nice. I think I'm going to have them on these covers for now. Okay, so the next book that I have here, someone's vacuuming right outside the door. Hope it's not too loud. Hopefully this mic covers up most of the noise. Next book that I have is Hobbitus Ille. So this is The Hobbit, basically, only it's translated into Latin. So interesting thing is there's actually no translation in Latin for the English word the. So Hobbitus Ille, I'm not sure what Ille means, but I think it might mean story or tale or yarn or something like that. So the English translation of Hobbitus Ille would be something like a hobbit story, maybe. I don't know for sure what Ille means, but just assuming maybe it's, the Iliad, sounds like Iliad. So guessing it means something along those lines. Let me know in the comment if you are a Latin expert and you know what Ille means. I do study Latin, and I'm definitely not fluent in it at all. I know, maybe half of the language, but I love the way the Latin language sounds, and so I got this for my birthday not that long ago. It's all Latin. And they actually Latinize the names of all the characters too. So like Gandalf is Gandalfus, and then Cillian Fili is Cilius and Filius. So Really love this little edition. Can't really read it that well, but I will like come along a lot of words that I do recognize, and I also try and kind of like reading it alongside the normal English version to sort of improve my Latin a little bit. These next two editions, they look very nice next together, is just have the paperback version of Children of Hurin. Found it used at a very low price, so I just decided to get it even though I already own the hardcover edition. This one doesn't have any illustrations at all, but still, this could be nice for just like reading it through and like taking it on vacations if I want to read it. Whereas I'm a bit afraid to take the hardcover along for vacations because I'm worried of it getting really beat up along the way. So I figure that might be a use of this one. And I have The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. This includes 15 poems that J.R. Tolkien wrote. Most of them are primarily about Tom Bombadil or about the Barrow-wights and Old Man Willow. And there's also some commentary by two Tolkien experts, Wayne G. Hammond and Christina Scull, on these poems, which are very fascinating and shed a lot of light on them, talk about how J.R. Tolkien wrote them. There's just a lot of like really subtle puns in here and jokes that only linguists and philologists would understand that is explained in the commentary, and I love that about it too. Okay, now we go to the second to last shelf. Right, so here is the next shelf. This is where I keep like all my paperbacks, or most of my paperbacks. The first is just this normal paperback edition of The Hobbit. Very nice for reading, nothing special, but I like it for reading. And then, of course, same paperback version of The Lord of the Rings. And again, this is that edition that combines all three books of The Lord of the Rings into one gigantic thing. Really love this edition, great for reading. It has that there, which I really liked. It also has a fold-out map right there. Very nice paperback, and I got it at a very cheap price as well. The next is the normal paperback version of the Silmarillion. I love reading out of this edition, very beat up. I've read out of it many times. I love the Silmarillion. Silmarillion, if you didn't know, is basically the entire history of Middle-earth leading up to the time of The Lord of the Rings. And then I just have the Lord of the Rings trilogy in regular paperbacks. So there's The Fellowship of the Ring, let's see here, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. I actually got these all for free because I found them in a little free library, which was a very good deal, so I just took them all, even though I already own them. Wait, how many editions of Lord of the Rings do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, so I have 4 editions of Lord of the Rings. Then the Tolkien Reader, this is kind of like a Tolkien miscellany. It comprises a bunch of Tolkien short stories. It has Farmer Giles of Ham, Adventures of Tom Bombadil, and On Fairy Stories. So it doesn't have as much as the Tolkien miscellany, but this does have a lot of short stories and essays that J.R. Tolkien wrote. And then Unfinished Tales of Numenor and Middle-earth. Interesting thing about this cover, actually, if you look, where is it? Right there, there's a little picture frame, and that's a picture of J.R. Tolkien. Don't know if you can see there, but that's actually a picture of J.R. Tolkien's. There's kind of like a Tolkien cameo on the cover of Unfinished Tales. Unfinished Tales is one that was published posthumously after Tolkien's death, with his son Christopher Tolkien edited it. And these are just a bunch of unfinished tales that J.R. Tolkien wrote about the island kingdom of Numenor that fell under a wave at the end of the Second Age. And of course, Middle-earth, it just has a lot of unfinished stories. Has like account of the Ringwraiths' journeys as they look for Frodo Baggins. Really interesting how the story is kind of told from like the Ringwraiths' perspective. Tolkien unfortunately never finished it. It also has an account of Isildur, which is like the story of how Isildur found the ring and stuff, told from his perspective. Unfortunately, Tolkien never finished that one as well. Also has some information on the 5 wizards that entered Middle-earth: Radagast, Gandalf, Saruman, Alatar, and Pallando. Really fascinating book. Really unfortunate that Tolkien didn't finish a lot of these tales, because there's a lot of very interesting stories in this book, but unfortunately, none of them are actually finished. either because Tolkien just abandoned them or because he actually died before he could finish them, unfortunately. Then right here I have the first 5 volumes in the History of Middle-earth series. There's the Book of Lost Tales, Part 1, the Book of Lost Tales, Part 2. Tolkien was writing the Book of Lost Tales when he was like a late teenager and in his early 20s when he fought in World War I. And these stories would later become the stories that now make up the Silmarillion. They are very different from what they are in the Silmarillion, but it is definitely the stories that later evolved into the Silmarillion. The next, there's the Lays of Beleriand, the 3rd volume in the History of Middle-earth. And if you're unfamiliar with the term, lays is just basically a fancy word for like really long epic poetry, like Beowulf and the Iliad and the Odyssey would be considered lays. So Tolkien just writes a lot of really long epic poems in this book. Beautiful poetry as well. So there's the Lay of Leithian, which recounts the story of Beren and Luthien, only it's told in this really heroic, epic, poetic form. Here, let me see if I can find here the Lay of Leithian. That's the Lay of Leithian. Tolkien unfortunately abandoned the Lay of Leithian when he was like almost finished with it. I'm not sure why exactly, but such beautiful poetry here. Let me read you a couple lines from over here. Then Morgoth of Huon's fate bethought, long rumored and in dark he wrought. Fierce hunger haunted packs he had, that in wolvish form and flesh were clad, but demon spirits dire did hold, and ever wild their voices rolled, in cave and mountain where they housed, and endless snarling echoes roused. So it's just lines and lines of this beautiful poetry. He also has a couple other unfinished lays, like there's the Lay of the Children of Húrin, which is the Children of Húrin, only told in a poetic form. And the interesting thing that he does with the Lay of the Children of Húrin is he doesn't make it rhyme. Instead, he makes it he alliterates it to make it sound really beautiful and poetic. Like here, he uses alliteration, Tolkien does, instead of rhyming. Like right here, thence later led them their lagging footsteps, o'er the slender stream of Sirion's youth. Nor long had he leapt a lace of silver from his shining well in the shrouded hills, the shadowy mountains whose sheer summits their bend humbled towards the brooding heights. Really fantastic what Tolkien does with this. This is probably my favorite volume in the History of Middle-earth. Then there's The Shaping of Middle-earth, where a lot of the ideas of Middle-earth become solidified, and the stories of the Book of Lost Tales here evolve much more closer into what it is in the Silmarillion. Then there's The Lost Road and Other Writings. This has the earliest drafts of what are undoubtedly the Silmarillion that we know today, and it also has an unfinished story called The Lost Road. Tolkien unfortunately abandoned it just 4 chapters in, but it is basically the story of a father and a son going back in time to the land of Numenor in Middle-earth. Really such a fascinating story, a time travel story that Tolkien and C.S. Lewis agreed that he would write. So they agreed that C.S. Lewis would write a space travel story, and that became his space trilogy. But then Tolkien agreed that he would write a time travel story, and that was The Lost Road, which unfortunately was abandoned. But those first 4 chapters are really, really fascinating and well-written chapters. Really unfortunate that Tolkien abandoned them. I also have this box set that has some very beat-up paperbacks of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Unfinished Tales, the Silmarillion, and the Tolkien Reader. These are editions that I received for Christmas a few years back, and this is what I originally read, like the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales out of. These are those original volumes that I read out of. Very beat-up volumes, but I just like to keep them, especially since I took a lot of notes in some of these books that I like to look back on and read. Okay, then there's The Fall of Numenor. This is kind of complicated to explain, so if you didn't know, there are 3 ages in Middle-earth. There's the First Age, the Second Age, and the Third Age. Here, I should lean down a bit. There, so you can see my face. For reference, The Lord of the Rings is at the very end of the Third Age, and in the Second Age is when the Rings of Power were forged, when Sauron forged the One Ring, when he made war with the elves. The Rings of Power TV show takes place in the Second Age, and also Numenor, Aragorn's ancestors, were also in the Second Age, in Numenor. So the fall of Numenor, all of Tolkien's writings about the Second Age are very scattered. Like, there's no specific book about one specific story of the Second Age like there is about the First and Third Ages. They're just bits of the Second Age are scattered throughout Unfinished Tales, the Silmarillion, and a couple of other books as well. And so Brian Sibley, a Tolkien scholar, he took all of Tolkien's writings about the Second Age and comprised them into this one volume in chronological order. So this is the entire Second Age of Middle-earth, all that Tolkien ever wrote of it, collected into one volume and in chronological order. Highly recommend. Then I have The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun. This is Tolkien's own version of a very ancient Norse saga about Sigurd and Gudrun. Tolkien was very fascinated by the Middle Ages and by their stories, like Beowulf and Sigurd and Gudrun were his two most favorite works of literature. He was very obviously inspired by them, and you can really tell reading this book a lot of the stuff that he took inspiration from. There's a lot of this book that he took and put into The Lord of the Rings, of course, and into The Children of Húrin as well. Really, this is a fascinating book. This is Tolkien's own version of an ancient saga about Sigurd and Gudrun. Really fascinating book. I'm fascinated by Beowulf as well. Also, I do own one book that would be here, but isn't because I'm actually letting a friend borrow it. But it is Beowulf. Tolkien did a translated Beowulf from Old English about 100 years ago, I believe, when he was teaching in Oxford University, and he also gave a lecture on it. And his lecture notes are collected and put into that volume, so you can read Tolkien's translation of Beowulf as well as his lecture on it in that book. I unfortunately don't have it now to show it to you since a friend is borrowing it, but I also do own that book. Okay, now for the last shelf. First I have this. This is, if I can get it out here, The One Ring to Rule Them All. Focus! Focus! Come on. Camera won't focus. I'll just hold a bit back like that. Yeah, very beautiful and shiny ring. And hey, guess what? It actually works too. See? Let me put that back in that case. Okay, then I have this beautiful box set, which just came out sometime within the past 10 months, I believe, which is the collected poems of J.R. Tolkien. Such a beautiful box set. These individual volumes have every single poem that J.R. Tolkien ever wrote in his entire life. This has all the poems that he wrote from the year 1910 to 1920. This has the poems that he wrote from 1919 to 1930, and this is the poems that he wrote from 1931 to 1967. Beautiful volumes, beautiful poems as well. Tolkien was just such a great poet that I'm really inspired by. I do want to be a poet someday as well, and I do take a lot of inspiration from Tolkien. I also love about this box set how it's very, very easy to take the books out. Because you get a lot of those box sets where you have to shake it really hard to actually get the books out. It's not very hard to put them in or take them out. But with these ones, it's really easy to put the volumes in and take them out. Gack, I can't get this one in. Just as I was saying about getting it in. That's just because the cover got stuck on here, though. So yeah, this is probably my second favorite box set that I have. The first, of course, being the Great Tales of Middle-earth. Love this box set. Right here, I have the films. So this is The Lord of the Rings, the extended editions. Nice map there. There's the films on Blu-ray, the extended editions. The extended editions are super long. They're all like 4 hours, I believe. And the Lord of the Rings films, let me do a quick little review here of the films while I can. I really love the Lord of the Rings films. I think they're very accurate to the books and accurately captured what Tolkien was trying to say in those books. Look, you can only see my mouth. So the Lord of the Rings films are very, very good. I think the best adaptations of a book that there has ever been. Fantastic, true to the book, Of course, there are some things that I didn't like about it. I don't like that they didn't include Tom Bombadil. I can kind of see why, though. But still, I feel like Tom Bombadil would have probably made it better, but I can understand. And, like, the films were getting long enough already. But the Lord of the Rings films are fantastic. Of course, they'll never beat the books, but very good adaptations of the book. Okay, here I have all the DVDs of the theatrical editions. So there's The Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. The theatrical editions are each, like, I think 2 hours. I'll just set these down here. Then I have the extended editions of The Hobbit. So the Hobbit films are okay. Like, the first one is pretty good. After that, they're not that great, though, and I'm not a huge fan of the last one at all. They just added in way too much. The story, they changed way too much. I will say, the first Hobbit film is definitely very good, but the rest of them aren't that great. They're not terrible, but they're not very great either. I don't watch them as often as I watch the Lord of the Rings, but they're still okay, and I do think that the first Hobbit film was pretty good. So there's The Unexpected Journey, Desolation of Smaug, The Battle of the Five Armies. And then, probably the worst Tolkien adaptation that we've ever gotten, Rings of Power Season 1. I got this on DVD just because I didn't want to watch it on Amazon Prime to bother with the ads, so I just got the DVDs. Rings of Power is a TV show taking place in the Second Age of Middle-earth, and there are currently 2 seasons of it out right now. They're currently making a 3rd season at the moment, I believe. From what I hear, it's not very popular in the Tolkien fandom. I'm not the biggest fan of Rings of Power. There are some good things about Rings of Power. The first season wasn't that great, like almost at all. Basically everything was made up. The second season was definitely much better, but still not perfect. These are probably my least favorite Tolkien adaptations. I wouldn't say that they're complete garbage or anything, but they're not that great either. Oh, and then this last thing that I have is the Lord of the Rings chess. I really love this set. I've been playing this chess a lot with my friend and my brother. It's the Lord of the Rings chess. Such a nice set. I usually like to get a lot of things used because they're really cheap, and I got this one for, like, I think only about $20, which is a pretty good deal because I got it used. Okay. There, that was my J.R. Tolkien bookshelf. Hope you enjoyed the tour. I want to show you one last thing, which is this picture of Gandalf that my uncle actually painted. I love this picture. I hang it up here. Let me see if you can see that. I hang it up right by my Tolkien shelf. Over here I have a little poster of my second favorite book series, The Green Ember, which is signed by the author because I met him once. So there, that is my Tolkien bookshelf. Picture of Gandalf. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to the person who commented and sparked the idea for this video. And for now, farewell.